you for joining us tonight. We are on a live hangout with the anti-Illuminati party, and I'm joined here by John McGuire. John McGuire is an active member of the anti-Illuminati party, and we're going to be discussing some of the stories in our group, the anti-Illuminati party, or excuse me, the anti-New World Order party Facebook group. We're going to just be going down. Obviously, if you're watching the video right now, you're able to see that we're scrolling up and we're scrolling down. I'm just kind of giving a little, here we go. So the anti-Illuminati, anti-New World Order party global group news report. We're going to be covering some of the stories that are basically posted on our website here. We're going to be discussing them and giving commentary, discussing, facts about them, or if they're satire. Basically, we're going to give you our opinions, and we're going to give credit to the people that have posted in the group, because really appreciate the fact that you guys are joining us in the group here, and we're really, we have a mission, and that mission is really to seek the truth. And also, it's not just seeking the truth, but there's a difference between having knowledge and wisdom. And knowledge is having the information. Wisdom is knowing what to do with that information. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to come to the truth, and we're trying to figure out what to do with it. We know there's a lot of problems right now in the world, and we want to come up with the best solution possible. And so, John, would you like to introduce yourself?
John, and what you said about me, and hello everyone.
Great. So we're going to go down our little feed here on the anti-Illuminati party, and we're going to just pick out some stories. John, are you seeing me scroll down the screen here?
Yeah, it's working. I don't know how much the time delay is, but
well, I'll try to take it slow, and we'll go through each story. So our first story here is sent in by Joe Cordanio, I believe that's his name. Diplomatic immunity. Learn, earn, live its photos. Live its photos. Sorry. So Joe writes a little bit of commentary himself, and so I'm going to read the commentary, and we're going to discuss that, and then we'll click on the link and see where that leads us. So anyways, Joe says, it's been 13 and a half years since 9/11, and even though it's all well-known, accepted fact that 84% of the U.S. population believe the government's bullshit story about who did it, people still line up at the airport with their children, no less, to be physically molested in the most invasive, degrading, and dehumanizing manner. You know that the U.S. and Israel are the only nations who threat travelers like this, don't you? You can fly in and out of any other totalitarian communist nation without being raped. Are you all mindless sheep? Must be.
yeah.
You keep paying taxes to these rapists who take every dime you earn just to subjugate and humiliate you even further. You can stop funding them anytime you like. It's called exercising your right of self-determination. You can no longer subject to pay taxes to what becomes a foreign nation because you are under a tax authority of another. And if you haven't figured out that U.S. citizens pay more taxes and enjoy fewer liberties than anywhere else in the world, you need to go back to sleep before you trip and hurt yourself. And
that is awesome.
Yeah, Joe, we really appreciate the commentary there. I hope you get an opportunity to watch the video. So this is basically an example of how we're going to be doing our broadcast here. We're going to be going over some of the posts that you guys put in the group here. And we're going to be discussing those posts, whether we believe them, whether we think they're satire, or basically. And I appreciate what Joe had to say there, because I agree with pretty much everything the guy just said. And
know that Fox News reported on 9/11 that they knew that Mossad already knew everything that was going to happen and didn't disclose it.
Well, from my understanding of studying 9/11 from the very beginning, basically before 9/11 happened, I was one of those people that was running around like a chicken telling everybody that 9/11 was going to happen. And the reason I knew that was, well, at least I thought I knew it, because I was listening to people that were smarter than myself at the time, who have been in this for a long time. One of those guys, his name is William Cooper. William Cooper used to run a show on the internet, and I want to say it's called The Hour of the Time. And you can actually still look up The Hour of the Time. I think it's houroftetime.com. Anyways, he used to do live broadcasts, and I would listen to those broadcasts. And also, I'd be listening to another guy that people know about, and his name is Alex Emmerich Jones of Infowars.com. And so both of these commentators, they were talking about 9/11 and bin Laden and the government, and how they believed that 9/11 was basically going to happen. And they were given some pretty good details about this. Matter of fact, they even said that they believed that Osama bin Laden was going to be an asset used by the government, but that 9/11 would be blamed on him. And interesting thing was, so I believed what they were saying. I was looking into the stories that they were talking about. So I was one of those guys that was like, I was what you call a repeater. I would repeat information that I heard if I felt it was credible. And people would say back then, they'd say, "Oh, you're crazy. That's never going to happen." And lo and behold, it happened. And when it happened, right away, I started a group, a 9/11 Truth group, with a lady named Wendy Painter, and this was back in Rochester, New York. We had a radio program, and it was on 1310 AM, and that's a little program out of Brockport, which is a little town outside of Rochester, New York. And it was a little, it was a mom and pop radio show, and we were doing a show once a week on Thursdays. And we started getting calls from people about 9/11, because that's what we were talking about. And we, started finding out some information right away that really made it look like an inside job. Like one of the first things they talked about was the passport that they found at Ground Zero that supposedly flew out of the tower, and it wasn't burned or nothing. It just so happened to be laying on the ground, and somebody picked it up. So that was our first red flag. At least for me, it was that one. And then there was another one that really shook me up and woke me up, because at the time I was involved in a Christian church out at Victory Baptist, and it was a Calvary chapel. And they had a guy come in there who was an Israeli Mossad agent, and he supposedly made a lot of contacts, a lot of noise. They recorded the program, and he told us a lot of things that you never heard in the mainstream news, like the plane in Pennsylvania. He said that plane was shot down, and he got an inside source from his friends at the Mossad. And then he said a couple other things I don't remember off the top of my head, but I know that shortly after, this guy, and I can't remember his name off the top of my head now because it was so long ago, but I could try to find that out, because he's still friends with the pastor there, Bill Gallatin. But I know that shortly after the live presentation of him giving his testimony, he was basically detained by the FBI and told not to talk about 9/11 after that. So you know, that was to me a big eye opener. You know, when we're told that these people on the plane, you know, they made a whole movie about it, obviously, and how they were heroes and all that stuff. Oh, another thing he also said.
Wait a second. Why didn't they find any wreckage from the plane then? I think people might be wondering.
Well, right. Well, that's, you know, that's another topic in itself there. I mean, obviously, if you looked into.
About Pennsylvania, right?
What's that?
We're both talking about the plane in Pennsylvania, right?
Right, absolutely. I'm just saying what this gentleman said happened is he said that plane was shot down. And also another thing he said that the United States Air Force One was also under attack by other fighter jets. So, you know, I don't know. I wasn't there to see that, but, you know, from a lot of different 9/11 videos that have come out, you know, there's a lot of questions.
Yeah, well, anyone who reads about the USS Liberty attack, nothing will shock them anymore.
Right.
I very highly recommend reading about that.
Right. I agree totally. That's definitely a part of history that can no longer be denied. That's an actual fact.
You'll know we're dealing with pure evil once you understand what happened to the USS Liberty.
Right, yeah.
I'm not anti-Semitic, by the way. Just, it is what it is, man. It's screwed up. Right,
and so anybody that's really looked into 9/11, I know there was a gentleman. His name was William Rodriguez. He was another one of those people that really opened up my eyes. William Rodriguez, I believe he might even be a member of this group that we're in, the Anti-Illuminati Party Global Group. But I know I'm friends with him on Facebook. Doesn't necessarily mean it means a whole lot, but you know. But anyways, he has a story, and this guy goes around the country and he tells a story about how he was the head janitor in Building 11, the one of the buildings that was knocked down, and how he basically led the police department and the fire department into the building. And the reason why was because he had the master key of the building, being the head janitor. So he went in the building, he went down in the basement. I guess there's sub basements. I think there were six floors of sub basements, and I believe he said they were on the 3rd level. And he said that while they were down there, that he heard an explosion, felt an explosion that actually pushed the floor upward while they were down there. And they opened the elevators, and when the elevator opened up, there were people that walked out that basically had skin dripping off of them from being burned. There was, in the main lobby, he said that the windows were all blown out of there. You know, there's a lot of other things that I don't remember off the top of my head that William Rodriguez happened to say. But right now, he is he's on tour, and he goes around the world. I'm not sure if he's still on tour telling his story, but I'm sure he does. But he's been everywhere pretty much, all these different foreign countries telling his story. And you could look his story up on YouTube. I remember when he was going to be interviewed, I believe it was on the Today Show, and that was when George Bush was still in office. And William Rodriguez, I was real excited because this would have been the first time that you know, William Rodriguez would have been on a mainstream talk show. And it just so happens that coincidentally, the government, George W. Bush, had an emergency announcement to make. I don't exactly remember what the emergency announcement was, but William Rodriguez, for the whole time that he would have been on, George Bush made this announcement and took up the whole time period. So William Rodriguez was never seen on that show. And I was pretty disappointed, but at the same time, I pretty much understood what was happening. They didn't want anybody questioning the official story back then. And so, and, you know, I also, another thing that I listened to was the 9/11 official police broadcast over the radio. if you look at that broadcast or you listen to it, you'll hear the police department and you'll also hear the fire department talking about bombs being in the building, but you never heard the mainstream media report that whatsoever. So yeah, there's definitely a 9/11 inside job or cover up or something. There was another thing that I remember off the top of my head too, and it has to do with the defense, our jet, our NORAD actually had our military jet planes doing an actual drill that day, and so was the police department and the fire department, and everybody was doing an actual drill, a scenario of the actual event as a drill. And it turned out that that drill that they were doing went live. But the problem with NORAD was the fact that as the drill, they planned the drill, and the airplanes were actually flying the opposite way. I mean, you're talking about going towards New York. They were flying away from New York. So that was another like real strange thing. And I believe that there was another thing with the ex Vice President Dick Cheney, who called off the fighter planes to engage the planes that were going to fly into the buildings and all of that stuff. Now, the Pentagon, that in itself was another one of those strange events where they had all the film and the cameras all around Washington, D.C. confiscated, and there's only been a couple of little clips that were allowed to anyways, so yeah, John, go ahead, man.
No, I'm sorry, I was abrasive there. Well, yeah, I mean, I'm gonna harp on this, only because it's the only way I was ever able to make sense of 9/11. It's about the special relationship between the U.S. and the State of Israel. And if you want to see that borne out, you can watch about the USS Liberty, or simply just watch about Fox News' report on 9/11 on that date where they say Mossad knew and did not disclose the information. It's clearly very corrupt, and what you're saying is very much a repeat of 9/11, where people supposedly are working for the U.S., but a lot of them have dual citizenship, including the guy who quote unquote investigated 9/11. By the way, we need to put the pieces together before it's too late. And this isn't about Jews. This is about Zionists. They're very dangerous people.
Absolutely. All right.
They're not Jews either. They're Khazars. And that's important. The DNA proves that the Ashkenazi are Khazars. That's 3/4 of your so-called Jews in the United States. 90% maybe globally. We're lucky. We got a high ratio of the Sephardic Jews who actually are descendants of Israel and Jacob.
Interesting. So I believe this would be probably a pretty cool story if anybody wants to click on this and look it up. Diplomatic community, learn it and live it. Pat Downs, trauma syndrome, fear, shaking, sleepless, nightmares, and flashbacks. An article by Sumner Gentry, September 11th, 2012. And we could click on it and see if there's more. Okay. John, do you want to read that?
What am I reading?
What is on the screen?
Oh, yeah. So the woman who checked me reached her hands inside my underwear and felt her way around. It was basically worse, I guess it's a woman, worse than going to the gynecologist. It was embarrassing, it was demeaning, it was inappropriate. And that's Carolyn Durand, ABC News producer.
Wow, that's pretty cool. I mean, not cool. I mean, it's the fact that, we're able to see stuff like this on alternative news. you never see that on the mainstream news. They don't report that kind of stuff, and they don't even talk about it on the Sunday shows. You know.
There was a see, what's the politically correct way of saying this? There was a homosexual gentleman who went to the airport, and he, you know, let's just say stuff happened, and he got arrested. Just because, you know, sort of, for him, the natural thing sort of occurred when he was being patted down. So, I mean, you know, it's just, that's a good, I think a great example in some ways of just how far the tyranny goes, and they just don't care.
Right. Yeah, I definitely agree with you. So we could go over the whole article there, but there's a couple other things that we should probably go over here. We'll just keep scrolling down until we find the next really interesting story. Oh, it says that there's another story here by Joe Cardenio. Joe sent us another post. Convention Against Torture, Office of High Commissioner for Human Rights. It says here, read the UN Treaty Against Degrading Treatment, which the U.S. is signed onto, and tell me why not violating the rights of everyone traveling by air, coming in and out of through a country. No one wants to be subject to what the U.S. puts travelers through. In the world full of 7 billion people have condemned it and set it down to an international agreement. Okay, so yeah, this looks like it should be interesting. And the website for this particular convention is ohchr.org. So High Commissioner for Human Rights, I guess that'd be .org. So, you know, as we were talking about earlier, you know, having knowledge and what to do with that knowledge is wisdom. So here's some of the solutions. This is one of those things where they're doing a convention against torture. It sounds pretty good. I'd like to look into it a little bit more. Definitely, if you guys check this site out and get back to us, leave your comments, and that would be awesome. So here's by Robert Anderson. He shared a photo that says America's backbone, the sovereign people, and this is a post by the liberty.sov/u.net, Corruption in the Courts, Part 4. Pot meets kettle. You're the black as SH and money. Look who's talking, genius. Now, honestly, that's above my head. I'm not quite sure. Oh, okay. So you're talking SHIT. Got funny. Okay, so on to the next story. Actually, this is a story that this is called the Inquisition is Back, and America is the next Jesuit Holocaust and possibly endgame for humanity. I actually reblogged this on the anti-illuminatiparty.com, and I happen to agree with it. I do foresee this happening in America. The reason I say, hey John, every time you send me an IM, it shows up right on screen.
Oh crap! I didn't see that.
Yeah, so probably I would say, I don't know. This is all new for us tonight, guys. This is we're experimenting with this program. I'd like to see us do it more often, because I really want to give credit to people that are posting in our group here, and give some props to you guys, because I really find that a lot of the stories on here are really good, And
Speaking of that, how do you freaking post to the group? Is there a group chat or something that I can send the link about the, for example, the Fox News report about Mossad knowing about 9/11, things like that?
well, yeah, all you got to do is go to Facebook/group/anti-New World Order Party Global / I mean, you're in the group. You just post on the wall there. It's just like posting on Facebook. It's a Facebook group. But
This is okay. I meant the anti-Illuminati party. It doesn't say global. It's supposed to.
oh no, that's sorry. I meant the anti-New World Order Party Global. That's
Party animal.
not animal. Global anti-New.
No. I did. You're a party animal.
Oh, you're a funny guy, haha. So, yeah.
I found it.
So, at some point, I want to, be able to broadcast and be more professional looking. At some point, I'm going to get a little office and I'm going to be able to do some broadcasting, and hopefully we can get some people that want to join us and, starting a news team. I mean,
when you have an office, that will make you an office or an official.
Well, I don't.
Right? Isn't that how it works?
I don't know.
You'll be an official.
I don't want to be official. I just want to be alternative news source.
No, not just official. You be an official. You be, when they say, officials have reported to us this, you could be one of those.
Yeah, well, that means I probably have to go get licensed by the state, and I'm not interested in getting a license to report alternative news, even though that's something that, the United States Senate and Congress are trying to do, make you get a news license for, Jason just sent me
I can't put a trademark on the word official. It just means someone with an office, I think.
Right, but what I mean is
it a corporation?
No, I'm just saying that the United States government wants to censor even alternative news, so they want to basically make you get a license to have a blog.
I think John Kerry wants to very badly, based on what he just said.
Right, and it's because of programs like this that, we talk about alternative news and views that mainstream media won't even touch on.
The most ridiculous thing I've ever heard is the saying that talk is cheap. If talk is cheap, why are they so worried?
Well, the problem is, a lot of times these alternative news sources have bigger audiences than the mainstream news, and that's what worries the government, because the government has makes these other alternative or these other mainstream news people get, a license, but according to the Constitution, we have the right to freedom of press. I mean, it's like the difference between becoming a 501c3 tax organization and just having freedom of speech in your church. So I don't want to become a 501c3 news organization. I don't want to have strings attached to me told that I can't talk about political things 6 months before an election. So let's.
That indicates to me that words are important, that speech is important.
Right, absolutely.
There was G.K. Chesterton, one of my most quotable guys. He said that he said that deeds not words was a saying back in the 1930s, I guess. He said that's an example of words not thoughts. But I think he might have been wrong. I think actually they put a lot of thought into making us think that our words don't matter. Right, so that then they can, shut us up more easily. Right.
So, are you actually watching this live right now, John, or are you on the Facebook page?
Yes and yes.
Oh, so you got a double screen there or something?
2 tabs, yeah. I just switch back and forth.
Oh, you can make it so you can see both at once, right?
Yeah.
So, I think I should probably wind up doing that when I'm doing this program, so then I could show. No, because I kind of. Anyways, enough of the small talk. Let's get back to this article here. This is It says the Inquisition is back, and America is the next Jesuit Holocaust, possibly endgame for humanity. So let's.
Well, the Jesuits didn't run the Inquisition, but anyway, they hadn't been founded yet. That's the deal. In fact, the founder of the Jesuits was investigated by the Inquisition for his affiliation with the Alumbrados, they were called, or the Illuminati. Just a historical point. They're not the same thing, and so let's not be lumping everything in fear-mongering. But go ahead.
No, that's really cool, man.
The Jesuits basically took over and shifted the church, but that was after the Inquisition.
Good. This is definitely good commentary. I'm sure a lot of our audience didn't know that. Like, you know, I didn't know that specific little nugget of truth there. But yeah, you know, an Inquisition or a Holocaust.
It all has to do with the Illuminati. The Jesuits did have to do with the Illuminati. Like, that is crystal clear, because it was 3 years after they were suppressed by the Pope that the Illuminati got started in Bavaria, which is also known as the Catholic part of Germany. You know, coincidence? Yeah, right. But
very good. You know your history, especially your Catholic Church and a lot of the Christian history.
I only just learned it when I was researching the Star of David, and this obviously doesn't directly have to do with the Star of David, but the whole Enlightenment thing does. So that's why it ties in.
Right. Now, you know, the thing that interests me about this article, and I haven't had an opportunity to read it, but I'd like to discuss it just because of the topic of the, you know, the headline there is pretty cool. The Holocaust in America, basically. I personally do see that coming at some point. And the reason I say that is in the Bible, there's a prediction. And I can't quote you the verse off the top of my head. I just know generally what it means and what it's saying is that God's going to take all the Jews, the real Jews, or even the Zionist Jews, and he's going to bring them all back into Israel at some point in the future. And those are all of them throughout the world. He says he's going to take the dry bones and he's going to basically make a new body. And that new body is going to be in the land of Israel in the future. Now,
funny, that's the same plan the Zionists have. I wonder if they'll get to it first.
Right. Well, that's what I think possibly that, you know, God uses the Zionists in some strange form. I mean, look at this. In the Bible, it talks about how he's going to take his hooks and he's going to put them in the jaws of Gog and Magog. And what that means, I believe, is he's the one that's controlling them and like a horse with a bridle, man. He tells them which way to go and how they're going to get there, and so he's the real master in chess here. And so in America, if America, like the rest of the world, that God said he's going to bring all the Jews, all the children of Israel from all the world back into the land of Israel. Well, how's he going to do that? Well, obviously through a Holocaust or something like that. I mean, this
was all contrived and in cooperation with the Zionists. But I mean, I see your point. But I think it was staged in a way that would, because I mean, I think true Jews. Am I talking, or am I just hello?
No, go ahead. I can hear you.
Okay. I'm hearing freaky noises. Anyway, so I think that the true Jews believe that when the Messiah comes, then he'll call them all back to, perhaps call them all back to the Holy Land, and maybe we'll all be their slaves. I don't know what they think, but anyway, but Herzl, I mean, he's a man who didn't circumcise his own son, so he's obstinately defiant of Judaism right from the get-go. So I mean, to them, he's the devil, basically. So he's the wrong guy to be doing this, and all the Zionists are just thugs. Even if, say, you're an Ashkenazi, but you're devout and stuff like that, and you're not a secularist, those people are fine in my book. I mean, they were duped A lot of them were, and there's even Sephardic Jews who, live in Israel, obviously, because what the heck else are they going to do? They are marginalized a lot. They're disenfranchised in the political process. The so-called Middle Eastern Jews, why? Well, they have darker skin, and that really is the main thing that they care about, right? They're very Nazi in every way. So it's not surprising they worked with the Nazis, as all the research bears out, all the documentation shows.
Well, Nazi, if you look at the word in itself, obviously, not a lot of people know this, but I'm sure we're preaching to the choir here. There are quite a few people here that post a lot of really good information about history. But the Nazis, National Socialist, right? National Socialist Zionists, basically.
Not Zionist, but no. No, the Zionist isn't in their name. No.
The Z and the I. What does the Z and the I stand for, and not Z?
It's just part of the word. It's not like an acronym where it's just the first letter. It's kind of a mixed acronym.
If you know the history of how the Nazis came together with the Zionists.
Yeah, that's true, but their name doesn't tell you that, because they had to keep their cover, man. I mean, do you realize that Hitler was trying to keep a cover as being the biggest anti-Semite in the world? Okay, Zionist isn't going to be in their name, for God's sake. I mean, it is pretty out there in the open now, especially the information we have today. But man, they were trying to hide it from all the little guys, the brown shirts and whatever, all the little people under them that really believed in Nazism, and God help them, because that's screwed up. But I mean, the point is that there were real believers, and then there were the people on top who were just bankers, representatives. They were agents, like Hitler was. Let me see. Yeah, so it just means National Socialism. It's just two words. Okay, it's not each letter is a word.
Well, I've seen other commentary that says differently.
Oh, it could be. I mean, I've seen commentary that says America was named after some goddess in Peru instead of Amerigo Vespucci, which everyone says. So, I mean, yeah, there's probably all kinds of debate about that.
Yeah, so I guess this is something that would have to be left open for discussion at some other point.
That is very interesting, especially because Ashkenazi ends with the word Nazi. So, I mean, it might have something there.
Definitely interesting. So, anyways, I think, with what's happening in our country, socially right now, there's a lot of things, and you're also seeing how the economy is going up and down according to the stock market. But, if you're anybody in America that's trying to look for a job, I mean, I know that for me, the last 8 or 9 years, it was real hard and difficult to even find a job that paid, above minimum wage. I mean, I got really lucky because I came up to North Dakota and I found some pretty good jobs. And I would encourage anybody else, if you are looking for work, come up to North Dakota. It's definitely well worth your effort and time to come up here, especially if you have a family and you have. I call North Dakota the land of opportunities, because I see opportunities here every day, and it's just amazing. So I'd like to share that especially with our group of people. If we're going to do anything in this movement, it has to be done with individuals, and individuals with money are able to do things. So, but here's a couple other things, I see happening. The Jade Helm 15. If you notice anything about that, we can touch on that for a second here, because it's a part of this article. Jade Helm 15 is a government operation. It's a drill, just like a 9/11 was a drill when they had 9/11. But this is almost nationwide. I mean, it's covering all the way from Washington down to Florida, and basically cutting the country in half. And they're running government drills, and it's going to be starting, I believe, on July 15th and running through September the 15th, or a few days there, give and take. But But it's an operation supposedly where they want to go and knock on doors and have actors act like citizens in distress, and the military is going to come in and, you know, play the rescuer, or and that's a cover story for what I believe they're really trying to do.
Yeah, Jesuits don't do Inquisition; they infiltrate. It's totally different. It's all messed up, but it's like that's a misleading.
Well, yeah, it probably just maybe they thought it was going to get some attention, and you know, here we are talking about it. You know,
A good sign that the Jesuits. By the way, I don't know if you're familiar with the sort of broader term, the Counter-Reformation, the Catholic counter. So there was the Reformation, right, the Protestant Reformation, and there was the Catholic Counter-Reformation. Well, a lot of that came from Spain, you know, on the Iberian Peninsula, and a lot of these people turned out to be Semitic, Jewish, Arab. You know, what's his name? The founder of the Jesuits, they're Ignatius of Loyola, for example, was I think half Semitic of one kind or other, and you know, they kind of the Pope had like zero credibility at that point, right? He had, you know, the Pope had you know, signed the papal bull Inter Cetera, allowing all this killing of Native Americans, you know, as if things weren't bad enough prior to the Reformation beginning, because they were. I mean, there were like 200 years of just incredibly unholy popes. In fact, none of the Renaissance popes have been canonized, beatified, nothing. Nobody even thinks about them as holy, except really fringe kooks, and Columbus too. I mean, just what a horrible monster. But they really spiritually basically took over the church to such an extent that I remember hearing a lot when I was in seminary that pointed out that the Pope actually, his confessor is a Jesuit.
right? Yes.
I'm not sure if it's the superior general or just any random Jesuit. But he confesses his sins, and his spiritual director is a Jesuit. So spiritually, basically, the whole Catholic thing came under this new movement. The Pope. I don't know when that began. That'd be interesting to find out. But I mean, basically, the Catholic Church could never get out from under them. You know, when they were suppressed in in 1773, I think, when they were suppressed by the Pope at that time, he said, you know, forever. That's what he wrote. Forever, no more Jesuits. Okay, 80 years later, they're back, right? So clearly, we can see who had more power.
Definitely, I think the Jesuits were, you know, like the Illuminati, a lot more organized and a lot more, probably, obviously, play a lot more dirty. And so, therefore, if you're not playing on the same, if you're not playing the game with the same rules, you know, who's probably going to win? The one that's not playing by the rules. And
Jesuits, the Jesuits. Let's see here. You know, both faith and morals. The Jesuits were great at like what we call rationalizing. You know, they could rationalize just about everything, and so that was what made them, I guess, so prodigiously cunning, because they were shrewd as serpents, probably not as innocent as doves, though.
right.
You know, they could simply make anything acceptable or believable. Even so, that's probably what put them above the Pope in many ways, psychologically, because they had no sort of loyalty to any doctrine. Not really. I mean, they do lip service, basically like some of the Gnostic sects earlier on, who would, you know, say the creed but not mean it the way, you know, most people meant it. And so, because they would have their own secret inner knowledge. Well, the Jesuits are no different, for goodness sakes. Catholics need to wake up. It's ridiculous. It's just, come on. You know, at least know what's going on. I'm not saying leave the church, or I'm not saying denounce the Jesuits. At least freaking, you know, put your big boy pants on and realize what it is. Don't pretend it's something holy and not psychological warfare. Come on.
Right.
That's all I ask of people. We don't need a revolution. We just need an awakening.
A revival. All right, so let's move on to our next story here. This was sent in by Janie Gordon. And she says, "What is the NWO? You guys think it's Jews, right? LOL, laugh out loud. Did you guys see this video yet? Oh my God. Our Jewish princess, Roseanne Barr, is a crypto Nazi." I haven't seen the video. Exactly, not sure. Let's click on it and see how long it is. If it's a long video, we won't watch it, but it's 5 minutes. Let's spend some time watching this. Well, you know, that is pretty interesting, I'll tell you. That's something I didn't know about Roseanne Barr. And I'm sure a lot of people actually didn't know about that. John, are you still with us?
Ramp.
All right. Did you get a chance? Were you watching it, or?
I was listening to it, but the video kind of lagged, so I'm just listening.
Oh, all right. Well, that's okay. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a something. Obviously, we know there's a lot of Zionism going on in, Hollywood and politics. That's just another one of those videos where somebody did I think, a pretty good job. I just wish a lot
Forgot to mention the Supreme Court. How many Jews are in the Supreme Court? So-called Jews, I should call them Khazars, because that's what they really are.
Right.
Because if they're Ashkenazi, then they're Khazars. The DNA has proven that amply. I mean, it's abundantly proved. It's that you can look it up in the Oxford Journal. There's like 4, I think, and Jews are actually 2%, and that includes the Sephardic Jews. So Ashkenazi would be what? What does that come out to be? 1.5% of the U.S. population, with 4 Supreme Court, I believe, 4 Supreme Court justices. Now Catholics have a disproportionately high number of people in the Supreme Court too, but Catholics are not 2% of the population. They're like 30%. I don't know, but the point is that yeah, and I don't think these are Germans. I think they're Ashkenazi, but I'm sure there are all kinds of things when, like I'm sure at the top they're still working together, of the Nazis and the Zionists. But you got to realize that there was a falling out, and in fact, what I read, of course, I have to see this documented, but I don't have any reason to doubt it. I read on Wikipedia that Theodore Herzl founded Zionism, designed the Zionist flag for the state of Israel and everything like that. And his daughter and her husband both supposedly died in the concentration camps. And of course, this was after the invasion of Poland, which was sort of the marker for when Hitler went off the rails, or had already gone off the rails, but it signaled that, because now suddenly, for the first time ever, the media in the Western world is portraying him as evil, where he was the good guy before. So it was very confusing and disorienting from his administration standpoint. And so from then on, it was kind of, he kind of turned into what he had pretended to be a little bit, even though he's a quarter Jew. We know that for a fact as well. Quarter Ashkenazi, I should say. He even has some African blood, they think, based on his DNA. It's interesting. But yeah, what else?
I definitely happen to agree with what you're saying. I mean, the more I look into this, the more I realized, how infiltrated our government is top to bottom, not just government, but, mainstream media.
All those strategic places. And it started in around 1909 with the sorry, brain fart, with the Parashim Society. And Parashim is just a word meaning like the Pharisees, the separate ones. They started infiltrating the schools. That was the beginning of Americans whose first loyalty was to Israel, because they would take an oath that Israel was first, at least until the state got established. Israel was first. Now I think they've taken it even further, where we're basically they'll sacrifice their country to keep it going. It's just gone into full madness cycle here. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I noticed that you posted a couple videos on the site there, John, especially the one about the one on 9/11. It talks about the banned footage from Fox News.
I should throw this in. I think that the Saudi Arabia just gave Israel like $16 billion or something crazy.
Really?
So, yeah, I confirm that, but pretty sure. Which one are you looking at?
I noticed you posted a video there about the report.
Yes.
And I just want to refresh the page so that we can go back to that. How long is that video? Is it a very long video, or?
I say go for it. It's jam-packed. I don't remember exactly. It's been a while. I've watched like 7 zillion videos about Israel, so it's all running together. But
Right, yeah.
But this is a deal breaker. If the American people knew this, you wouldn't be able to contain the outrage. So play it, I would say.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna play it. It's going up right now, and it's only about 20 minutes long, and then we can discuss it. I think it's.
and an investigation into the possibility that both have been compromised by our president. How clear are investigators that some Israeli agents may have done so? Well, it's very explosive information, obviously, in this great deal of evidence that they say they have collected. None of it necessarily conclusive. It's more when they put it all together. A bigger question, they say, is how could they not have known? Almost a direct quote. We reported on the approximately 60 Israelis who had been detained in connection with the September 11th terrorism investigation. Cameron reported that U.S. investigators suspected some of these Israelis were spying on Arabs in this country and may have turned up information on the planned terrorist attacks back in September that was not passed on. Tonight, in the second of 4 reports on spying by Israelis in the U.S., we learned about an Israeli-based private communications company for whom a half dozen of the 60 detained suspects work. American investigators fear information generated by this firm may have fallen into the wrong hands and have the effect of impeding the September 11th terror inquiry. Here's Carl Cameron's second report. Fox News has learned that some American terrorism investigators fear certain suspects in the September 11th attacks may have managed to stay ahead of them by knowing who and when investigators are calling on the telephone. How? By obtaining and analyzing data that's generated every time someone in the U.S. makes a phone call.
What could you say, please?
Here's how the system works. Most directory assistance calls and virtually all call records and billing in the U.S. are done for the phone companies by Amdocs Limited, an Israeli-based private telecommunications company. Amdocs has contracts with the 25 biggest phone companies in America and more worldwide. The White House and other secure government phone lines are protected, but it is virtually impossible to make a call on normal phones without generating an Amdocs record of it. In recent years, the FBI and other government agencies have investigated Amdocs repeatedly and adamantly denied any security breaches or wrongdoing. Sources tell Fox News that in 1999, the super-secret National Security Agency, headquartered in Northern Maryland, issued what's called a top-secret, sensitive, compartmentalized information report, TSSCI, warning that records of calls in the United States were getting into foreign hands, in Israel in particular. Investigators do not believe calls are being listened to, but the data about who's calling whom and when is plenty valuable in itself. An internal Amdocs memo to senior company executives suggests just how Amdocs-generated call records could be used. Quote, widespread data mining techniques and algorithms combining both the properties of the customer, like the credit rating, and properties of the specific behavior such as whom the customers are calling. The Amdocs memo says the system should be used to prevent phone fraud, but U.S. counterintelligence analysts say it could also be used to spy through the phone system. Fox News has learned that the NSA has held numerous classified conferences to warn the FBI and CIA how Amdocs records could be used. At one NSA briefing, a diagram by the Argonne National Lab was used to show that if the phone records are not secure, major security breaches are possible. Another briefing document said, quote, it has become increasingly apparent that systems and networks are vulnerable. Such crimes always involve unauthorized persons or persons who exceed their authorization, acting on exploitable vulnerabilities. Those vulnerabilities are growing because, according to another briefing, the U.S. relies too much on foreign companies like Amdocs for high-tech equipment and software. Quote, many factors have led to increased dependence on code developed overseas. We buy rather than train or develop solutions. U.S. intelligence does not believe the Israeli government is involved in the misuse of Amdocs information, and Amdocs insists that its data is secure. What U.S. government officials are worried about, however, is the possibility that Amdocs data could be in the wrong hands, particularly organized crime. And that would not be the first time such a thing has happened. Fox News has documents from 1997 drug trafficking case in Los Angeles in which telephone information, the types that Amdocs collects, was used to completely compromise the communications of the FBI, Secret Service, DEA, and the LAPD. Mossad, the Israeli intelligence agency, did indeed send representatives to the U.S. to warn just before 9/11 that a major terrorist attack was imminent. Why does that leave room for the lack of a warning?
Well, I remember the report, Brett. We did it first internationally right here on your show, the 14th. What investigators are saying is that warning from the Mossad was nonspecific and general, and they believe that it may have had something to do with the desire to protect what are called sources and methods in the intelligence community. The suspicion being perhaps those sources and methods were taking place right here in the United States. The question came up in the Select Intelligence Committee on Capitol Hill today. They intend to look into what we reported last night, and specifically that possibility. Right.
So, in other words, the problem wasn't the lack of a warning. The problem was lack of useful details.
Quantity of information.
All right, Carl. Thanks very much. Coming up next. Israeli-based company called Amdocs that generates the computerized records and billing data for nearly every phone call made in America. As Carl Cameron reported, U.S. investigators digging into the 9/11 terrorist attacks fear that suspects may have been tipped off to what they were doing by information leaking out. Concern about phone security extends to another company founded in Israel that provides the technology that the U.S. government uses for electronic eavesdropping.
The company is Comverse Infosys, a subsidiary of an Israeli-run private telecommunications firm with offices throughout the U.S. It provides wiretapping equipment for law enforcement. Here's how wiretapping works in the U.S. Every time you make a call, it passes through the nation's elaborate network of switchers and routers run by the phone companies. Custom computers and software made by companies like Comverse are tied into that network to intercept, record, and store the wiretap calls, and at the same time transmit them to investigators. The manufacturers have continuing access to the computers so they can service them and keep them free of glitches. This process was authorized by the 1994 Communications Assistance for Law Enforcement Act, or CALEA. Senior government officials have now told Fox News that while CALEA made wiretapping easier, it has led to a system that is seriously vulnerable to compromise and may have undermined the whole wiretapping system. Indeed, Fox News has learned that Attorney General John Ashcroft and FBI Director Robert Mueller were both warned on October 18th in a hand-delivered letter of 15 local, state, and federal law enforcement officials who complained that, quote, law enforcement's current electronic surveillance capabilities are less effective today than they were at the time CALEA was enacted. Congress insists the equipment it installs is secure, but the complaint about the system is that the wiretap computer programs made by Congress have, in effect, a back door through which wiretaps themselves can be intercepted by unauthorized parties. Adding to the suspicions is the fact that in Israel, Converse works closely with the Israeli government and under special programs and reimbursed 20% of its research and development costs by the Israeli Ministry of Industry and Trade. But investigators within the DEA, INS, and FBI have all told Fox News that to pursue or even suggest Israeli spying through Converse is considered career suicide. And sources say that while various FBI inquiries into Converse have been conducted over the years, they've been halted before the actual equipment has ever been thoroughly tested for leaks. A 1999 FCC document indicates several government agencies expressed deep concerns that too many unauthorized, non-law enforcement personnel can access the wiretap system. And the FBI's own nondescript office in Chantilly, Virginia, that actually oversees the CALEA wiretapping program, is among the most agitated about the threat. But there is a bitter turf war internally at FBI. It is the FBI's office in Quantico, Virginia, that has jurisdiction over awarding contracts and buying intercept equipment. And for years, they've thrown much of the business to Converse. A handful of former U.S. law enforcement officials involved in awarding Converse government contracts over the years now work for the company. Numerous sources say some of those individuals were asked to leave government service under what knowledgeable sources call troublesome circumstances that remain under administrative review within the Justice Department. And what troubles investigators most, particularly in New York in the counterterrorism investigation of the World Trade Center attack, is that on a number of cases, suspects that they had sought to wiretap and surveil immediately changed their telecommunications processes. They started acting much differently as soon as those supposedly secret wiretaps went into place. Brett?
Carl, is there any reason to suspect, in this instance, that the Israeli government is involved?
No, there's not, but there are growing instincts and an awful lot of law enforcement officials in a variety of agencies who suspect that it had begun compiling evidence and a highly classified investigation into precisely that possibility. Right.
All right, Carl, thanks very much. On a long-standing government espionage investigation, federal officials this year have arrested or detained nearly 200 Israeli citizens suspected of belonging to a, quote, organized intelligence gathering operation. The Bush administration has deported most of those arrested after September 11th, although some are in custody under the new anti-terrorism law. Cameron also described an investigation into the possibility that an Israeli firm generated billing data that could be used for intelligence purposes, and described concerns that the federal government's own wiretapping system may be vulnerable. Tonight, in part 4 of the series, we'll learn about the improbable roots of the probe, a drug case that went bad 4 years ago in L.A.
Los Angeles, 1997. A major local, state, and federal drug investigation sours. The suspects? Israeli organized crime, with operations in New York, Miami, Las Vegas, Canada, Israel, and Egypt. The allegations? Cocaine and ecstasy trafficking, and sophisticated white-collar credit card and computer fraud. The problem? According to classified law enforcement documents obtained by Fox News, the bad guys had the cops' beepers, cell phones, even home phones under surveillance. Some who did get caught admitted to having hundreds of numbers and using them to avoid arrest. Quote, this compromised law enforcement communications between LAPD detectives and other assigned law enforcement officers working various aspects of the case. The organization discovered communications between Organized Crime Intelligence Division detectives, the FBI, and the Secret Service. Shock spread from the DEA to the FBI in Washington and then the CIA. An investigation of the problem, according to law enforcement documents, concluded, quote, the organization has apparent extensive access to database systems to identify pertinent personal and biographical information. When investigators tried to find out where the information might have come from, they looked at Amdocs, a publicly traded firm based in Israel. Amdocs generates billing data for virtually every call in America and the new credit checks. The company denies any leaks, but investigators still fear that the firm's data is getting into the wrong hands. When investigators checked their own wiretapping system for leaks, they grew concerned about potential vulnerabilities in the computers that intercept, record, and store the wiretap calls. A main contractor is Converse Infosys, which works closely with the Israeli government and under a special grant program is reimbursed for up to 50% of its research and development costs by Israel's Ministry of Industry and Trade. Asked this week about another sprawling investigation and the detention of 60 Israelis since September 11th, the Bush administration treated the questions like hot potatoes.
I would just refer you to the Department of Justice with it. I'm not familiar with the report. I'm aware that some Israeli citizens have been detained. With respect to why they're being detained, and the other aspects of your question, whether it's because they're intelligence services or what they were doing, I will defer to the Department of Justice and the FBI to answer that.
Beyond the 60 apprehended or detained and many deported since September 11th, another group of 140 Israeli individuals have been arrested and detained in this year in what government documents describe as, quote, an organized intelligence gathering operation designed to, quote, penetrate government facilities. Most of those individuals said they had served in the Israeli military, which is compulsory there, but they also had, most of them, intelligence expertise and either worked for Amdocs or other companies in Israel that specialize in wiretapping. Earlier this week, the Israeli embassy here in Washington denied any spying against or in the United States. Tony?
Carl, we've heard the comments from Ari Fleischer and Colin Powell. What are officials saying behind the scenes?
Well, there's real pandemonium described at both the FBI, the DEA, and the INS. A lot of these problems have been well known to some investigators, many of whom have contributed to the reporting on this story. And what they say is happening is supervisors and management are now going back and collecting much of the information because there's tremendous pressure from top levels of all of those agencies to find out exactly what's going on. At the DEA and the FBI already, a variety of administrative reviews are underway, in addition to the investigation of the phenomenon. They want to find out how it is that all this has come out, as well as be very careful because of the explosive nature and very political ramifications of the story itself. Tony?
You know, that video, I am not surprised. Not surprised. John, are you there? Mr. McGuire. It looks like Mr. McGuire might have fallen asleep on us. But yeah, I'm not surprised by this banned footage by Fox News. It says back in 2001. So that was, that was 9/11. Obviously, some pretty good footage here. But let's scroll down here. Here's something about the Osama bin Laden, and it was sent to us by Bobby Thompson. This is some information, obviously, that, if you guys are in the truth movement, you pretty much understand, this Osama bin Laden story is played out. He was announced dead 9 different times before. And so, yeah, people are going to catch on, and we're going to find out about this. This story was posted on wucnews.com. And there's been some people that have come out, I guess, recently that were insiders. I'll get a little story for you about this. I worked with a guy this past year, and he had a friend that was actually he was a Navy SEAL on SEAL Team 6, and supposedly this is a guy that actually had pictures taken with Osama bin Laden when he was captured. But from what this guy is saying, that his SEAL Team 6 friend came out and said that SEAL Team 6 wasn't the ones that actually caught bin Laden. He was saying that there was an organization called the Trident Group, which actually obtained bin Laden. And then supposedly the Trident Group handed bin Laden over to SEAL Team 6. And, I don't know exactly if this is true, but, this friend of his, he was telling me about how he was a SEAL Team 6 member, and he was one of his best friends, and they were in a motorcycle gang together. And the guy would always bring back pictures of, things, and have these crazy stories about things that he do. And that was one of the stories that the guy brought back, was that he actually had a picture of bin Laden and himself. And the guy that I was working with said that he actually saw that photo. Now, I don't believe it was bin Laden. It probably was one of his doubles, or, something, because obviously, who knows? I mean, honestly, I don't know. I wasn't there. I can only really try to figure out, through different websites and things. And, this was secondhand information. But he talked about the Trident Group, and that's an actual Illuminati organization. And so when he said that, that's what really got my attention. And he said that he was going to he was telling me about his friend, and how his friend was killed after doing some kind of top secret mission. He was killed, I guess, and the government wouldn't release the information, but he was going to his funeral, I guess that weekend or something. So, but anyways, Mr. McGuire, are you there? Hello, Johnny. I think we've lost Johnny. Somewhere along the line, he must have fallen asleep, I'm thinking. But anyways, guys, I just want to appreciate, and I want to say thank you for joining us on the program here. We've been going here for an hour and a half, and I just wanted to do this as a short video, make a half-hour report, but obviously we carried on and we had some conversations, and it's an hour and a half, and this is a lot of information to bring in. And I want to appreciate. I appreciate everybody that's joined our group and is posting really great stories, and I hope you guys, trust us with the information that we're going to use it for the benefit of not just our organization, but hopefully we can take this knowledge and turn it into use it as wisdom and figure out how to do something to turn this world around and make it a better place. But anyways, that is going to be the end of the broadcast. And like I said, I really appreciate you guys. You don't know, well, maybe you do know, but in this kind of thing that I'm doing here, broadcasting, I just know that I appreciate you and want to say thank you guys. And so this is me. I'm saying good night here, and everybody be blessed. And we're going to be doing some more reports like this more often. And I just want to say good night and God bless.